Polygon issuance number what?
47.
Jeff? What number is it?
47.
47 for February 20th, 2015, with the big headline of the day being the wonderful winter weather event with civil emergency fund stuff across the South and in Tennessee and Alabama. Nothing much going on so far. I mean, Mike can probably provide some more input on this, but there's just a band of snow right now across Tennessee with winter storm warnings, ice storm warnings, with winter weather advisories, whole conglomerate of products out for that area with just sleet, freezing rain, the whole package expected. So I'll throw that over to Mike, and I'll let him kind of provide some more on that because he's the expert in that area.
Well, at this point, what we're looking at is all of that toward Knoxville, getting ready to wind up toward Interstate 81 and just come on up at some point. I think it's going to hold out for a little while. That'll allow me to get home after this. But at this point, today's been a record-breaking day. It was a record breaker at like 12:01 this morning. The Tri-Cities record for the day was 13 degrees, set back in 1979. And when we crossed over to midnight, it was 5 degrees or something like that. So the record was long gone as soon as the day started, and it only got worse from there. Minus 13. 13 below zero this morning. Oh, that's crazy. The fourth, I think they said the fourth coldest day since we've been keeping records up here in the middle of nowhere. So there's something to be said for that, I guess. Thankfully, it's going to get warmer. This stuff is going to start to snow for us, and then maybe have some ice storm problems with it in the middle. Don't know exactly how bad that's going to be. And then it's going to change over to all rain, and once it changes over to all rain, everything will be okay. And after minus 13 this morning, Sunday is going to be 47 wonderful degrees. I'm going to be so happy.
Ooh.
And as I mentioned earlier, there are winter weather advisories extending from Maine up through Maine down through Arkansas, with winter storm warnings centered in the middle, winter weather advisories around that, and then of course the ice storm warning for Tennessee, including Nashville, Cookeville, and all that area, with civil emergency messages. The second one this week, according to Jeff, for northern Alabama. They're just pretty much telling people to stay off the roads because they don't want to clean up your mess. And then aside from that, we have winter weather advisories from Montana down through northern Texas, winter weather advisories in northern Texas with winter storm warnings around Denver. And then, of course, we got our wonderful cold. Jeff, you're not in the wind chill advisory, but I still am. We have wind chill advisories from northeastern Montana through North Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin. So another night of brutal cold for us, which is absolutely joyous. But yeah, so the ice storm warning issued earlier this afternoon for Tennessee, including many of those big cities.
Pretty much just middle Tennessee.
Yeah. And then there is also, I'm looking at the map right now, I haven't seen it all day, but
I'm looking at it too.
Freeze warnings down in Florida, so everybody's battling the cold.
There's a couple places that aren't. California, Arizona, they're like cold. What cold? At least Denver's not going to be warm anymore. They're under a winter storm warning now. And they were in the 60s yesterday. Typical Denver.
Oh, it's balmy in Southern California. 85 at Palm Springs.
Oh,
wow. Gets freezing from there on out. Wind chills, not too bad so far. They're expected to get worse overnight. We've had minus 20, minus 30 here for the past couple of days, but nothing too bad. Current weather, nothing too much for freezing rain. I guess there's a few places in northern Alabama, or Tennessee, excuse me, that are having freezing rain troubles, but so far nothing too much to report on. I did see that up in Iowa we did have some freezing rain, at least according to
what they're saying. I mean, this storm is just going to skim the state. And
Harlan is reporting unknown precipitation, so
but it's automated, so it's
probably freezing rain or sleet or something mixed. And then they got some, if we remove our mask, probably some heavy freezing rain there north of Kansas City.
Sleet.
We should get a report from John Bailey on what's happening up there. He lives in that.
Well, yeah, but we're not going to put him on. I know he's online, but you could ask him. But he lives on the south side of Kansas City, so he doesn't.
He could be our guest for tonight, Jeff.
No. I know that it's supposed to be really nasty. Kansas City to St. Louis down into Kentucky. What is with this Kentucky thing? Are they trying to get all the weather stuff like Boston has been? Boston gets all this snow, and now Kentucky is like wanting in on the action. Why do they want to butt in? Like, oh well, we're not getting attention. We want to have snow and ice and all this other stuff. All we're getting up here is cold. Except lately, it's not. Today, it's not cold. It's in the 20s now today, and it's only supposed to drop to near 20 tonight. That'll be like heaven. That'll be like really crazy, and it's supposed to be warm. Well, warm. Not even close to average. We're supposed to be in the mid-30s this time of the year. It's going to be in the mid to upper 20s tomorrow. That'll feel like a heat wave. We're all going to go out in our shorts and dance around because it's going to be warm, because it's not going to be that warm again. Because then it's going to plummet back on Sunday. We'll be below zero Monday morning again. I'm like, oh, good grief.
Yeah, I was telling Jeff and John, for that matter, that I was sick for pretty much the entirety of last week, which was absolutely terrible. I do scoreboards for basketball games, and when you have a cold and when you're trying to press buttons on the board, it's absolutely terrible, because it's kind of like that feeling when you can't sneeze and it's just stuck in and it just like bubbles up. Oh, good grief, I hate it.
Mm-hmm.
And I get sick of this bipolar weather. I swear it goes from like 0 one day to 30 the next, and then keep repeating that pattern.
And I don't see that pattern changing anytime soon, because I've looked at models, and it just seems like it's just going to continuously do this for another week or possibly even more. I noticed the extended going into March, it looked like for a couple of days that it was going to warm up and the pattern was going to shift to more out of the Pacific. Oh no, it's starting to switch back to it's going to stay cold more. Thinking, how long is this going to go?
This just shows the weirdness of at least the forecast here. Tomorrow it's supposed to be 20 degrees and falling. Sunday -2 for the high. Monday 17, Tuesday 29, and then it goes back to cold on Wednesday.
Yeah.
With 14 and lows in the negatives for many days.
But speaking of the weather down where Mike was, I think it was Lynchburg, Virginia. Didn't they break their all-time record low ever?
I haven't heard that.
I saw that on Twitter this morning, or where it said they went down to 11 below, and of course it was the coldest temperature of the day.
Yeah.
But I saw it said that they had that was their all-time record low. I don't know if that's what it was, but it's evident they broke a record low. But I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. I think I saw several places down there that had some of their coldest days on they had their coldest day on record, and it was like the third or fourth coldest day ever in some cases, in some areas.
Mm-hmm.
Especially in North Carolina, Virginia area. I mean, it was just this means business. This isn't no tiddlywink cold pattern. And you just keep dumping all this snow and ice and all this stuff, and you keep dumping it further and further south. Another batch of cold air is going to make it even worse. Because I think we're lucky here. I heard today where it said we're still losing snowpack here, and we have not been above freezing in at least 2 weeks. And we're losing snow because of the sun. Mm-hmm. Even if it's below freezing, it's just sublimating out, and we're losing snow just a little bit now. So, but we haven't seen the sun a whole lot lately either. It was funny today when it snowed, flurries, when I was at the hospital. Not for me, for those that don't want to know. It was for my mother who had surgery today, outpatient. And I was there, and there were some flurries, which I knew it was coming. And when we were leaving, we were driving back home early or late this morning, and the sun was coming back out. And I don't think they predicted that the sun was going to immediately pop out right away, because the sky was starting to clear, and it looked like it was going to be a wonderful day in the afternoon, which I wouldn't know because I took a nap. But when you go from having snow, and then it's sunny, and it's 30, then it's 0, then it's 30 again, then it's 10 below 0, then we have record lows, then there's wind chills. It's no wonder Henry's sick. I've been sick, and I still feel kind of groggy, but this is going to lead to a lot of people getting sick.
Yeah, I'm just kind of clicking around here on some different things here on GeoEarth, and I just kind of noticed the difference between the 850 millibar temperatures and the surface temperatures. So about 0 degrees Celsius, that's 32 degrees. So right around the freezing line. And you notice, it kind of tells you where the freezing rain is at. I mean, it can be coming down, it can be warm in the atmosphere, but it comes down as like freezing rain.
Yeah.
I can probably talk more on this because he's actually looked at this in depth on models for his forecast. But I mean, it just kind of shows. I saw it on Twitter that they were kind of looking at the difference between the 850 millibar temperatures and the surface, and it just kind of shows the freezing mess that's around this area.
Yeah, exactly. It's the good news is, after all the snow we've had here, and of course to most people in the country, it doesn't. I mean, it's not much, but it's been really, really cold and snow, and we're gonna have one more run of snow, and then the warm air is gonna come in at the upper levels first, and that's gonna make things interesting for a little while, late tonight and early tomorrow, with sleet and freezing rain like they're having in the middle of the state right now. That's just going to come right over here. And the temperatures are going to come with it. And overnight, we'll actually warm up a little bit, probably, from 21. We're about 21 right now, I think, last time I checked. 23, according to that. And we'll probably drop down to about 19 or 20, and then the warm front's going to come through, and then we'll start to warm up a little bit, but it's going to happen above us first, and that's what will create the same situation they're having in the middle of the state. Chattanooga's having lots of traffic issues right now because of the snow and all of that. There, I saw a picture of Interstate 24 a minute ago, and it has snow all over it. So that's headed my way eventually before the night's over.
Yay. How fun.
Thankfully, I don't have to be anywhere tomorrow, so that helps.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it's just repeating. So if we're going to see this again, you'd wonder if we're going to see this again in a couple of weeks. Henry, I can hear myself back on your end.
Yeah, I can hear him twice. That's very disturbing.
Yeah, we're just going to have to talk real loud. But anyway, so after discussing the current weather, next week we'll probably have the same weather. But I know Henry wants to rant about something later on. And I'm probably going to rant about this cold air and the models deciding they want to, because I'm getting sick. I'm like, telling people, oh, look, the models are showing it's going to get warmer, and then, boom, nope, it's going to be cold again. Like, oh, good grief, please. I just want some 40. I'll take 45 right about now. But, no. But, you know, I mean, it's just plain driving me nuts because I'm getting sick of this cold weather. I'm trying to think what else what I was going to talk about because there's other stuff. But, Henry, is there anything? I'm trying to think. My brain is kind of messed up today.
Did you guys talk about the NWA stuff last week on Polygon?
I think they had just come out with the information on the hotel like that day, and I didn't see it until after the show was over. I think didn't we talk about that? Wasn't it Saturday when we were talking about that?
I know we talked about it in our private chat, but I wasn't sure if we talked about it.
Oh, it was later Friday because I had to hop off here and run to the house to do the rest of that. So yeah, that'll be an interesting situation. There could be a lot, and I do mean a lot of people at that meeting because it's going to be in Oklahoma, and that's where everybody is, and you know, everybody who does weather is going to want to be there. It's going to be interesting to say the least.
Yeah, the thing that's going to drive me nuts is the hotel pricing, which is not terrible, but kind of the logistics are going to be kind of a bit messed up.
Mm-hmm.
But from what I gather is that the hotel thing is open now. My guess is it's going to fill up like that, and then they're going to have to go to the next hotel, which would probably be the Sheraton next door. And then, have they ever had to do more than one other hotel instead of two? The host hotel, and then they had to go to another. Have they ever had to go to 3 hotels?
Not that I know of. In Birmingham, and everybody had to be in Birmingham because of what happened right before. 6 months before that meeting. That one, there was a second one that they had to go to, but they didn't go to 3. I ended up staying in a different one altogether, but that was a different situation altogether. But I don't know if they've had to go to 3 or not. I know one year, 2012, I think they had a lot of trouble with the hotels because it ended up when everybody switched conferences, when Nebraska went to the Big Ten or whatever they did, they ended up having to play a game on the weekend of the NWA meeting when they didn't think there was going to be a game. So hotels were difficult when that one happened in 2012. But it's going to be, I'd say they'll have to go to another one pretty soon. And with as close as all the hotels are in that part of Oklahoma City, I usually tell people when they go to try to be in the main hotel where the meetings are going to be. This particular situation, I don't know if it's going to be that big of a deal. If you're within 2 or 3 blocks, it may not be a big deal if you stay at a different hotel for this one.
Yeah, I mean, but then the thing is, there's a lot of the hotels. There's a good 7 or 8 hotels within walking distance.
Yeah.
So, and Henry sounds like something's going on at his house or his place.
Sorry, had to pay attention to the dog. He was going crazy.
Yeah, I know it's going to be pretty. If anybody wants to go, because it's probably going to be one of the better meetings, given that it's the 40th anniversary. So there's going to be a lot of historical stuff. Speaking of historical stuff, I want to bring all this out because we might as well just do all this stuff. I noticed the Weather Service in Paducah is doing a severe weather thing for the anniversary of the tri-state tornado in March. And it's going to be, it's on the Paducah's Weather Service page. I can bring it up just a sec. But they're having like a remembering the tri-state tornado. Will be the 90th anniversary this year of that tornado. So let me get to it. First off, I gotta find it. Come on, internet. Don't be slow.
That's one of the first tornadoes I ever heard about and studied, and it's just, that thing is, well, I mean, it's evil. To be honest with you, it's just like that one in Birmingham or in Tuscaloosa.
Okay, here it is.
All of them are evil, but that one is just legendary as far as it was on the ground.
Okay, I found out.
Push the button.
Here it is. It'll be a severe weather workshop. It'll be held at in Carterville, Illinois. They're going to do, and it's going to have the SPC lead forecaster. And I can actually read the agenda. See, here's going to be the agenda for it. It's going to be 3 hours. It's going to be like a mini meeting or something. How, if a tri-state tornado happened today, how it would be done by everybody, type of thing. Which would be almost fascinating to know, would this many people have died in a tornado of that magnitude today? The answer, of course, would be probably not. A lot less people have died. But the likelihood is, the tornado was moving at 70 miles per hour, too. Average speed was about 70. Can you imagine? You can't outrun a tornado going 70.
Nope.
And that was 1925. I don't think there was any vehicle around that could go more than about 40 or 30. So, and it was sweeping across, and so. But the likelihood would have been, it would have been seen. There would be videos everywhere, and you'd have stormtroopers going, ah, whatnot. So. But yeah, that's what what's going on with this. I thought that was kind of interesting. So I happened to see that go by, that they're having that. So I mean, there's a lot of anniversaries of tornadoes and snowstorms and cold weather and all this sort of stuff. So, and I just happened to think of that when we're discussing that. But about the NWA 40th anniversary. So there'll be a lot of historical type stuff. I'm hoping there's not going to be anything historical that's going to happen between now and then, because that's like April 27th, 2011, when it just so happened that the NWA meeting in 2011 in October was in Birmingham. So of course there was a lot of talk about that. You can't just write something, because all the papers and whatnot, abstracts, had to be in by the end of April, more or less. So there was some discussion about it, but there had been more at the Madison one in 2012 than in Birmingham, where there was the discussions. There was the forums, the open things where they discussed, but that's about all you'd be able to do with current, as in very current weather, within 6 months from when the abstracts ended to current, to when this meeting starts. If anything big happens in between, they'd have to do the open forum type things like they did in Birmingham. So, let me. Hello, come on. I need to get my hangout back up. And I like the fact there's a high wind going in far east Tennessee.
Oh yeah, in the mountains, in the Smokies. That's those are a dime a dozen. Happens about 48,000 times a year. Whenever cold fronts move through or something, everything up there just goes faster. For lack of a better way to put it. and you end up with those things. What's interesting is when you get into thunderstorm season and you get the fake TVSs out of that. That's what makes life interesting when you're down there east of Knoxville and there's storms coming through and you see the little rotation, but there's not really anything there. We end up bouncing off the mountains and various other things, bouncing in and around the mountains, you know, and it's crazy. That's one of the things the Weather Service office here, well, I say here, it's in Morristown, but that's one of the things they have to watch out for really carefully. And that's actually one thing on that April 27th outbreak that was interesting, because one of those storms went right up to the foot of the mountains right there in Greene County, Tennessee, just southwest of where I'm at. And that actually had something. But a lot of times you'll see the little, if you have GR Earth or Google or GR3, you'll see the little rotator things in the mountains when there's nothing else there, and that's why I like to call it stupid radar trick.
Yeah, I mean, you have, and the thing is with the hills and stuff like that, it bounces everywhere, and it wouldn't surprise me with, and then they were thinking of mountains. I saw again where they were talking about putting up the radar at either App State or somewhere.
Yeah.
Over there. And then I saw a discussion from one of our future guests who put out a map of radar coverage. It was either Jason Prentice, who will be on in late March, talking about this, and then somebody else, and they were all discussing about where they should put radars because of the gaps that there are from the heights. And in this area, one of them said Northeast Missouri was one of them, and I had been pretty much going after that for some time because Northeast Missouri is pretty much very under utilized for radar because the beams are way too high up there. And I'm thinking, you stupid people. Here, I'm starting to rant now. You stupid people. So you don't care about these people that live there because they live there because they live there? I know that sounds kind of weird. Because they're rural. There's not. It's almost back to the simple case that people, they're not going to go on air for a tornado in a rural area because there's nobody lives there. So it's like Northeast Missouri, we don't care about you people. You just are going to have radar beams at 10,000 feet and tornadoes at the ground, and we don't care. So, I mean, there's been all this case of why should they put these they should put radars if they're going to. Why does Norman, and we discussed this, Mike, several weeks ago. Why does Norman need like 50 radars? They have enough. I know they need a comparison, but it'd be nice to have a radar that's at least somewhat even experimental in a place that needs it, instead of a place that doesn't need it.
You could talk about it out in my area. I mean, if you look up, because I complain about this a lot, but I'm literally between Minneapolis and Des Moines. Both of those radar sites, I'm literally stuck between the middle of them, right in this area. One's there, La Crosse is over here. Sioux Falls, I'm literally in the middle of all these radars, and I wish, because that's another thing, media radars, there's like 3 in Des Moines just because the media have to have their own radar. And I'm like, really, can you not just all, I know it won't happen, but it would be nice if they would put one somewhere else instead of just putting a bunch in the same place.
This was off of when Ari was on the Carolina Weather Group Wednesday when he was, we need more radars, or do we need more radars, or do we need radars that can detect tornadoes? And I'm thinking maybe it's time we need to start thinking, should we even just put in radars that don't have GPS or dual pole, just to have extra radars? Because I mean, back in the old days, we had WSR 7s and WSR 74s. You can't tell me they weren't the same thing. 57s were probably not as good as 74s, unless somebody can tell me differently. But you had some radars were 57s, some were 74s, some were. I mean, there's a difference.
I mean, the main difference between, if I'm not a freaking radar expert in any sense, But are you saying there isn't really any difference between what?
WSR 57 and a WSR 74.
The thing with the WSR 57 is that that would be a. I'm pretty sure that's 57s are black and white, and WSR 74s are color, if I remember correctly.
Here's the picture that I saw.
And I mean, that's a huge difference if you think about it.
If you can see the screen share, this is the thing I saw. I mean, there's the gaps here in the mountains, but I mean, you're not going to be able to do that in the mountains. But look, right here in Minnesota, parts of South Dakota, the part around Missouri, southeast Missouri, but that's fairly mountainous. Then there's parts even in Tennessee, even Alabama, Mississippi, Texas, even. I mean, Oklahoma Panhandle. The radar beams are too high. Have they ever heard that there could be tornadoes in the Oklahoma Panhandle? That's very serious. There should be, even in the area right here, the plains and the south should have the best radar coverage, given the fact that, and even the Ohio Valley, this area should have the best radar coverage, and it looks like it does, but the gaps are not good. I don't like this. It's unacceptable, in my opinion, and I think a lot of other people say it's unacceptable too.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The only thing is, and the major problem with the Weather Service as a whole right now is that, I might as well start a rant. There are people in suits in Washington that don't understand what the National Weather Service does.
Yeah.
And whenever it's time to cut things, instead of cutting $50,000 for a hammer, as the guy said in Independence Day, they'll take money from the one thing the government does a useful job with, and that's the Weather Service. Because, I mean, I've got screen sharing the radars around me. Right there is Blackbird, way up there. You get Jackson there. There's a big old hole right here. And Morristown's radar has a hole right in here anyway, because there's a hill right over here in the town of Morristown that blocks the radar. So right up in through here, Scott Russell County, right there, you can see it's just like a slice of a pie or something. It's just not there. You get nothing. If there's stratiform precipitation coming through, there will be a big chunk of that out. And if you look at Boone, and the problem with Boone is they're 3,300 feet off the ground, so I don't know how you would, with the radar, how you would adjust for that. But with Boone being right here, that's kind of in the middle. I mean, you see Morristown, Boone, Blacksburg, so that's going to shoot up in here a lot better. So that's the reason why when I was in Charleston a couple of years ago, and Ricky Matthews brought that up, I think, the other night on their show, I kind of flipped out a little bit because they were talking about, we're going to put radar in Boone. I'm like, yes, please, because that's exactly what we need to have to better cover this part right here where I'm at pretty much, because the Morristown radar, and I can't see it because of this thing, the Morristown radar here in Bristol is 6,000 feet off the ground, and once you get to where that big, where that EF3 hit in 2011, that's almost 10,000 feet off the ground where that tornado was.
Yeah.
And if you have something in Boone, now it is starting at 3,000 feet, so maybe it wouldn't be all that much better, but it would be a little bit better because of the simple fact that if you do I don't need to put home there, I want a marker there.
Well, I
mean, if you put a marker there, that's like 35 miles instead of, if you put the marker here, put it down there, instead of 80. So that's going to be, or almost 90 in that case. So it's clear that if they put a radar of any kind in Boone, it's going to help out over here. It's going to help out on the other side of the mountains too, where Brad Panovich has a lot of viewers over there. That's going to help out a lot over there too, I think.
Well, what I'm thinking is there's all these terminal radars that don't go very far. I know Charlotte has one, and those only go out, what, 40 miles? Why can't we put a bunch of them everywhere? I know those are for airlines or airports, but even shorter radars that only are like 40 miles, that would be a lot better. It wouldn't be dual pole thing, but at least it would be better. You would be able to see stuff. I'm starting to think terminal radars would cost a lot less than having to get out another 88D dual pole.
And see, you've got, well, I don't have it screen shared anymore, but up here where I am, of course, there's Tri-Cities Airport. You got to put one there if you're going to put any more. Just not far northeast of me, there's another airport. You can put one there, and that's going to cover a little bit of the Southwest Virginia problem too. So that's not the world's worst idea. I'll give you that.
The thing you kind of have to look at, I mean, who's going to provide the funding for all of this?
Oh yeah.
I mean, you got to look at the politics of it, because it's just the NWS does have a budget. They do get money, but right now radar isn't the area that they can really put money to in the long term. I mean, if anything, they're going to be looking to upgrade to the new radar. I can't remember what it's called.
Phased array?
Phased array,
yeah, phased array. I mean, even that, they're probably going to be looking to upgrade to that in a few years, if they even get the funding for it. I mean, they're not going to be looking to be adding on anymore. The last radar that they added on was Langley Hill up in Washington. I think that was 2012 that they added that. I don't think that the NWS has kind of made it clear that they're not looking to really add on anymore to our current radar network or upgrade into the components. If anything, it's going to be looking on to the next set of radars, and who knows, I think that might be a better for the radars, but coverage-wise, it might be a little worse because they won't be able to get as many radars as we currently
have. What I think is going to happen is with phased array, I think what they're going to do is put those in different places and just keep dual pole. Because it's evident from that map that I showed, there's a gap. Now, in the Rockies and out in the West, it is going to be hard to do that. Because it's going to be, you're bouncing a beam on 10,000, 12,000 foot mountains. You're going to get crappy radar up there. But even like putting it in Boone, North Carolina, it's still going to bounce off mountains that are over 6,000 feet.
Yeah.
So unless you put it on top of the mountains like Mount Mitchell or something, then the beam is immediately at 6,000 feet, and if you have a half a degree tilt within 30 miles, that's at 10,000 feet again, and pretty much, unless you do a zero from Mount Mitchell, and it's at 0 degrees, which means it's not going to hit anything, but you could run the risk of having it hit trees and have the same problem we have with the radar in northeast Mississippi, where it's bouncing off trees and it's causing the radar to be messed up.
And I mean, if you look at the current radars, I mean, a few of our radars haven't even been upgraded to level 2 yet because there isn't bandwidth. I know that's the next. They're trying to upgrade the rest of the radars to level 2. Most of them have dual pol already, but that's another issue because whenever you put a radar, who's going to provide the bandwidth? Because that's another big money thing. I mean, it seems small, but in reality, I mean, they put these radars on Air Force sites, and they barely have a level 3 as it is. Half of them, they're just now getting the level 2, which that was put in I don't know how many years ago now. So, I mean, there's a lot of problems and money concerns. It's not like it's a cheap option to put these radars out at these airports. Plus, you run into the issue with maintenance, who's going to be, quote-unquote, running it at the airport.
Well, most terminal radars aren't even at airports. They're at separate sites away from airports. Because if they were at an airport, that defeats the purpose. Because they're there away from an airport within like 5 or 10 miles from an airport to make sure they're not going to have another Delta 191 crash in Dallas back in '85 with downbursts. That's why that's how terminal radars came into being, was the Delta 191 crash 30 years ago, because they needed radars close to the airport, but not at the airport. So they can see downbursts, so they can tell planes not to land or take off or whatnot. But I think maybe we need to have them in these smaller radars that only go out a couple of miles. And I'm starting to think, how much do they cost? Could universities take them, especially meteorology schools that could run them? I mean, heck, Oklahoma has money to burn. They could easily have enough money to put a radar up somewhere in the Texas or Oklahoma Panhandle, somewhere north of Amarillo, to cover the Oklahoma Panhandle and parts of southwestern Kansas, the northern Panhandle of Texas. They could easily do that. Or say, let's say Missouri, they could have a radar in Kirksville and have that radar going. I mean, you could look at universities doing it, but university budgets are really being crimped right now, especially in a lot of state legislatures. So, I mean, there's ways to
back to politicians.
Yeah, I mean, it would be at the state level instead of the federal level, and it's not like every state has money, because there's a lot of states that are hurting. The federal government is kind of Some states are really bad. So, I mean, you can get grants and whatnot to put in a radar. I mean, there's radars everywhere, but just not enough of them and not the type we want. So, I just fear that if we're going to have another tornado, let's say like an April 27th event, and it's going to hit northeast Missouri, and it's going to hardly be detected, and then how many people are we going to kill before we finally decide we should put a radar there?
Mm-hmm.
Or anywhere, in fact, like at where Henry is, the radar beams are too high there too, or in the middle of South Dakota. Pierce, it's pretty bad when Pierce, South Dakota, the capital of South Dakota, has poor radar service. I'm sorry, but if a tornado comes and wipes out the city of Pierre, you don't think the governor of South Dakota is going to complain that there should be better radar coverage? I mean, where do you draw the line? You wait to it's typical of stuff here. I'm ranting now. That it's pretty evident that they only do something after people have died or gotten injured, and it's typically going to be lots of people. Because they have to wait until there's death and destruction and people bleeding in the streets before they'll do something.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of piss poor. I mean, you're here to serve the people, but if you're not serving the people properly, then maybe you shouldn't be serving the people. So, I mean, I think I'm only lucky enough that the radar beam at where I'm at is at 5,000 feet. So we're 45 to 5,000 feet. So I'm like happy. I get good radar service, but there's a lot of people that don't. So that was a good rant for like 20 minutes.
And the big deal is with that, most people don't know and or don't care. So once quote, most people end up giving a care about this, they're going to tell people who need to know, and the people who need to know are going to be like, you know, Weather Service might need to get paid more for what they do after all, as opposed to what that idiot in Congress said. I don't even remember how long it was when he said that NOAA doesn't get paid too much for what they do or whatever, including the Weather Service and that. That was insane. Because there's so much stuff that can be done that's a whole lot better than some of the junk the government does now that doesn't do anybody any good.
Yeah. They have to, it's come to the point, they have to say, what should we do? What are we doing that we shouldn't be doing? Because it's evident they're not putting the money in the right spots. I mean, when the models are getting better, although they're a bit crazy. Still, we need to get those fixed. We need to do all this stuff. So why are we spending all this money for other stuff that when we can't even get the forecast for tomorrow right? Or we're getting poor radar service in places like northeast Missouri, or where Henry is in northern Iowa, or South Dakota, or the Texas or the Oklahoma Panhandle. There's people living there. They're going to want to know if it's going to be stormy.
But people most people, except for the enthusiasts, don't know where the heck a radar site is or where it's at.
Yeah.
They think they're covered. They don't. I mean, if you're looking at your Weather Channel app on your iPhone 6, they're not going to tell you where the radar sites are. You're going to think you're automatically covered. They don't know that.
Yep.
Unless you're an enthusiast and have an interest in this stuff. But the average Joe doesn't know where the radar sites are at. They just think they're magically positioned in your stadium.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think that, and that's the problem with almost every average person that doesn't know, are they covered, or what is the tornado warning, and is now a tornado emergency more important than a tornado warning? And there's too much that people think they know, but they don't really know what they're supposed to know.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
They think they know, but they don't know enough. That's what I was trying to say. And
yeah.
I mean, that's just a sign of, I mean, it's getting to the, I'm just rambling, so yeah. But then what I see is, especially with Henry, because I'm showing Henry's thing, where it's precipitating, the beam could be so far up, is it even precipitating? Because we had today, here, we had bands of snow that looked similar to what's going on in Middle Tennessee, and all I had was flurries. I mean, you could look at that and go, oh my gosh, it's snowing heavily near and east of Nashville now. And say Nashville, Lebanon, over toward Cookeville. And I'm thinking, ooh, big snow heading toward Knoxville. If the atmosphere is so dry at the surface, that snow could fall and it could be flurries at best. Because the same thing happened here because it was too dry. And then people complain, well, the radar said it's snowing. And why is it not? Because the radar beam is too high, and it's where the atmosphere is more moist up in the upper levels, but at the surface it's dry. So you could have, now of course this is probably not the case in Tennessee, but I'm thinking that the thing is that you're going to end up getting heavy snow and you're thinking you're going to get it, and then you don't, and then you complain, well, they got it all wrong. And it's another case that people think, well, the Weather Service doesn't know what they're doing, their radars are broken.
Kind of the opposite happened here the other day, when not the big snow, but the more recent one a couple of days ago. When right as it started, we were supposed to be getting snow, or we were supposed to not be getting snow. The radar had nothing on it, and you look out the window and there's snow everywhere. So we kind of had the opposite situation of what you're talking about for a little while, where you look at the radar, nothing, look outside, and it's peppering down the snow, for lack of a better way to put it. So that, I think, is just an overshooting of the radar situations. But that's it's kind of hard to detect snow, and it's really frustrating when you get one of those situations where you see it and it's not happening. And we actually had that for a little while here too. We've had a little bit of everything here over the past week or so. I'll be happy once we get to 47 degrees on Sunday.
If it gets to 47.
Yeah.
I mean, here, if you get really light snow, it won't detect on radar at all unless it's really close to the radar.
Yeah.
And I mean that's the thing with the radar. The radar can see precipitation, but if it's snow, especially if it's the really fine snowflakes, it has a terrible time showing those.
Yep.
And you only can see, but now you look down at the storm that's approaching you, Mike, you see it coming. It's coming.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
the heavy wet snow or the wetter snows, it'll detect easy. Drier type snows, it will not pick up well, unless it's just chucking it down in snow. Then it'll pick it up. But it's another case of people think they know and they don't know enough. back to that again.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you know, but we don't have to worry. They might as well have shut the radars down here for the last week, except for today when it snowed. But they could go into maintenance for the next week because we're just not going to have much of anything. So, yeah, I mean, there just needs to be some stuff going on with that, the radars, but educating the public with stuff that's going on nowadays, with everything changing, the warnings have changed and whatnot. We still have the problem, Henry's favorite, winter weather advisories, and they ask us, is it snowing? And it's not for actual snow. It's another case of people think they know, and then they don't know enough. Because, like, for example, here, a winter weather advisory could mean blowing snow, which won't happen now because all our snow is hard packed now. So we wouldn't get blowing snow this time of the year with the snow on the ground here now. But people think they know, and then they don't, so you have to educate them. And then there may be the case that people maybe don't want to be educated because they don't want to be told that they've been knowing stuff wrong for their entire life, and that kind of gets to the point that, oh, well, you're just being all hotsy-totsy and you think you know everything, and I don't think that helps either. People then start thinking, well, I know what I want to know, and I don't want to be told what I want to know. Does that make some sense? Because there's just people that don't want to be educated.
Yeah. That's definitely true.
And that's the thing. We could go. You could, and here's going to be another rant. We could just go all full bore and change all this stuff to make it so smart and make people know what's going on. And there'll be some people that still won't because they're not going to. I mean, we can't. And I'm sorry. This is going to really get me probably in trouble. I'd say we can't babysit everybody. There are people that are going to know, and there's people that are not. We can't babysit everybody. We can't force people to get all this stuff. We can't yell at people because the TV people are not going to come to your house and tell you a tornado's coming. They could call you on the phone, but you have to take responsibility. And there's some people that won't do that. And you can't just call everybody's house and start and I mean, you could do that if you sign up for this stuff that some states are doing where you just do that, but you have to do it. You can't just assume they're going to call you. And even that, are they going to take action? Some won't. And I don't care if you educate them to kingdom come, they're still not going to do it because they think they know better. And then it goes back to they think they know, but they don't know enough. That's going to be like the theme of this episode. They think they know, but they don't know enough. That's the theme of this episode. So, and that's the case with severe weather, winter weather, it doesn't matter. Ice storms, tornadoes, severe thunderstorm warnings, and now there's like dead silence.
Trying to figure out how to expound on that.
Yeah, expand on what I was thinking. Yeah.
Well, one of the things that I've learned since the big outbreak in 2011 is I had trouble with that one, as I've probably mentioned on this show before. I had issues. That's the first one where the first one I remember here, I mean, it probably happened, but the first one that I can think of where people died because of tornadoes here. And it was on my watch. I was sitting in this position in this studio, actively trying to get people to go to a safe place on that stuff. And I talked to Randy Jackson, who is a legendary weather guy in Greensboro. He's long since retired. He works for Appalachian State's radio network now. And I got to talk to him for, gosh, a good hour one day about all sorts of weather stuff. And I asked him about that because, you know, I had trouble with it. And he said, look, there's no reason to think that it's your fault that they're not around anymore. And he said, that's a bunch of bunk. He said, he didn't put it that way. And he said, there are people that aren't going to do what you want them to do regardless. It could be an EF5 going up the street. It could be, you know, anything. They're not going to do it. And sooner or later, it's going to kill them because they don't do what people are trying to tell them to do. And there's no reason, I mean, you got to feel bad about it because it's a lost life, regardless of the stupidity of the person. But you can't beat yourself up over that. And I learned a lot from that because, and like I said, still, it's loss of life and it's hard to deal with. But at the end of the day, from a standpoint of being on television or being a weather service forecaster or whatever, and just doing everything you can to let people know what's going on, just do everything you can, and whatever happens, happens. I mean, if you have power outages, if you have internet goes down and you can't communicate with anybody, or the transmitter turns off and you can't talk to people, or whatever, I mean, there's 800 different things that could go wrong, but you just got to do the best you can and learn from each different situation. And that was a very useful conversation to have about that particular outbreak. I hadn't looked at it from that angle, but that, and when you think about like Spans area in Alabama where there's 252 people, situation like that, people that go where they're supposed to go lost their lives in that one. And you know, there's nothing you can do about that kind of thing. Up here, it's kind of a little bit of a different story, but still, just to kind of get it in my head a little better that, you know, there's nothing you can do if somebody's not going to get out of their mobile home and go to somewhere in somebody's house or something. And if their trailer gets flipped over and they get crushed by a washer and dryer, there's nothing you can do about that. And having that told to me by somebody who forecast the weather in North Carolina for 30 years and has been through everything, that was a real big help to me in terms of how I cover severe weather. I'll still do the same thing. In June we had, or was it July, we had a tornado actually touch down, and the Weather Service got a hold of it. They put it in the warning, and we had the little black ring around the polygon where it said, this is a tornado, it's been reported. And I'm like, I'm sitting here, okay people, it's here, it's happening, go to your safe place right now. And even with a change of voice, some people aren't going to do what they're supposed to do. Thankfully that didn't kill anybody, but when I got to that point, knowing what Randy told me, sitting in the press box that state, that helped me to do my job from then on. And that's a very interesting thing when you talk about people are not going to do what you want them to do, is because sometimes if you're trying to get them to do something and they don't and it kills them, you just got to kind of let it go. Hard to do, much harder said than done, but eventually you just got to let it go. And that conversation is one of the more important ones I've had in the almost 4 years since that outbreak happened.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, people are gonna perish, and you can't do anything about it. It's happened to probably a lot of people in TV and in radio, that the only thing that you can get in your mind is you did your job. At that point, you've done your responsibility. You can't just hold their hand and take them to shelter. They have to take responsibility, and the person sent out the message, you or anybody on television, you are not responsible at that point. Now, if you screw up a forecast, you're responsible. But if there's a tornado, it's coming toward you. You sent out your response. You've done your responsibility. It's their responsibility to do what you tell them to do. And if they don't, and then they die, that's not your fault. And I think a lot of people have to, that are in broadcasting, have to take heed that they did their duty. They can't forcefully, they can forcefully say it, but they still can't physically take you to shelter.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're going to try to wrap this up so you can get home, Mike. So, before
actually,
it starts...
according to Henry's map there, it doesn't look like it's as close as I thought it was going to be at 8:30. So that's not...
Yeah, but you never know what's going to be. The radar could not be looking at anything. So
yeah, it might not be seeing the fact that there's snow there. I could walk outside and it'd be snowing like crazy.
There could be
dark,
flurries already. So, I mean, we can do we can do our shout outs now. So that could be another hour if we do that. So, Henry, do you want to start shout outs?
I'll let you start shout outs while I think of mine.
First thing I gotta do is look it up.
Yeah, I had one about 4 days ago, and I can't remember what it is now, so I'm gonna have to hunt for it.
Yeah, that figures. I'm going to shout out the Eagles up in Decorah because it had its first it laid its first egg back 2 days ago, I think it was at this point.
That's what it was. I just remembered what my shout out is, and it's thanks to your shout out that I remembered it.
For example, here is the live camera. There's the eagle. It looks like it's sleeping right now, so...
Look at the number of views on that page. Holy cow.
Yeah, it says 309 million views since it started.
And that doesn't count the people that have seen it on TV when TV stations have run it through.
Yeah. See, look, the eagle's up. Look.
They know we're talking about it.
But yeah, it has its first egg. It's probably close to laying a second one, probably in the next day or so. It's going to lay its next one. So, but that's my shout out. And and the eagle, hopefully, it's looking at something and not about to squeal because I turned the sound down on this. But that's
that would have been interesting.
So that's my shout out.
Alright.
I guess I'm next.
I just have to look for it too.
Wait a minute. I'm not sure because Henry started talking. I wasn't sure if he was ready.
Oh, thanks, Jeff. I have my shout out just about ready. I just have to.
Okay, Henry has it almost ready. So, Mike, if you want to go ahead.
Okay, I'll do mine right quick. It's just a shout out to a person, really, more than anything else. When we had our big snow event on Monday, we've had, seems like 3. This one about to be the 3rd one. I kind of knew something was coming. I usually take a day off in the course of, forecasting and work in general. I get 1 day off a week. And woke up on Sunday morning to watch WJHL's news, and was it kind of hit me when I saw that they were doing weather almost all the time on that newscast, that something ridiculous was going to happen on Monday, which it wasn't as bad. I mean, we had like 4 inches at my house. But the whole point is their meteorologist, Brian Walder, had picked out and told everybody the day before on Sunday. he said there's going to be sleet starting this thing off, and that's going to keep our snow totals down. Or he didn't say it exactly that way, but there's a possibility of it. And I went through Bucket, and I'm like, okay, I don't see it. I don't see it. And I was looking, I was watching the temperature profiles and all that, and it wasn't hitting zero. It was coming close, but it wasn't hitting zero. So I'm like, crazy. Ain't no way. Well, it turns out he was exactly right. I was, when I finally got home on Monday, we switched from snow to sleet to freezing rain and back about 3 times that afternoon. So I'm going to give props to Brian Walder. I did it on Twitter. I'm going to do it live on this show. He nailed it. I mean, absolutely nailed that forecast, and I got to tip the hat to Brian for that, because that was well done on a very, very difficult forecast, and he nailed it right on the head.
Alrighty, my shout out, if you're done, Mike, is this page Jeff and I created, like, I don't know how many months ago, but it's still very, not this spreadsheet, that's Polygon spreadsheet, but this is a climate spreadsheet for a whole bunch of locations in Iowa, since there's no one-stop place. Of course, you can find it in the NCDC archives, but there's no one-stop place for those in Iowa. You can find averages for high, low, rain, and snow for most places in Iowa, for most of the counties. 100 to roughly 100 locations in Iowa you can find, and you can find yearly averages, the snow averages, and then of course the statewide averages for rain, snow, high and low, which of course just a few numbers off the top of at the bottom of the sheet. 59 is the average high in Iowa, 38 is the average low, with roughly 35 inches of rain total for the year on average. 3 inches per month on average, but that's probably lower for the winter months. Yeah, so we made this back in April of last year.
And it took forever.
Yeah, it did take very long time to get all of these numbers put in. So that was our big project from then. Anyway, since we're done with shout-outs now, I'll do our upcoming guests. Next week, we will have Nathan Parker back on for a second time. He'll be previewing some new stuff from WeatherBug. So make sure to tune in. He's from Arkansas. And then Rachel Witter from WFXV and WUTR in New York will be on. Jeff can.
He's in Utica. She's Mohawk Valley person.
And then Dr. Tony Lupo from Russia. Russia will be on.
That's where he is right now. He's in Russia. He's actually from the University of Missouri.
Yeah. And then the 20th, that might be filled in the future. April 20th, or March 27th, excuse me. Jason Prentice from the Weather or Not
consulting
thing will be on. April 3rd might be canceled.
Mainly because it's Good Friday that day, so.
April 10th, Tom Coombs, is it?
Yeah.
From WBND in Indiana will be on, and then lots of question marks from there on out. Not sure what Jeff is trying to do there. He just says question marks for May 8th and May 29th.
Those are dates I'm looking to slight or keep open in case for other people. So.
Gotcha. Well, beyond that, you can contact the Weather Network at Iowa WX Network. You can find us on Facebook, facebook.com/Iowa Weather, plain and simple. You can email us, info@iawx.net. You can find me on Twitter at at Henry C. Luker _WX. Jeff, you can find him at Iowa WX, and Mike, I don't have yours off the tip of my tongue.
It's at WXMC.
Yep.
Okay, I'll remember that for next week. That's simple.
Yeah.
But anything else, Jeff, that you have for us?
It's cold.
It's brutally cold. I think it's bad down there. Try coming up and moving up here. Anyway, have a great weekend, everybody. God bless, and just try to stay warm from the terrible cold and wintry crap down in the southeast. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thanks.